Can you hear me?
Yes,
we are hearing you.
Let's pray. Loving Father, we thank you for this wonderful moment. We thank you that you have enabled us to gather here. Father, lead us, show us your way, and please be with us through all this discussion. And whatever you're going to discuss should be fruitful to our lives and our businesses. We thank you, Lord. We give you back the glory and honor. In Jesus' mighty name I've prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Maria, for the prayer. I would like to welcome the head teachers, the administrators, the teachers, and everyone who has joined in here to learn more about the new curriculum. You are most welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. In today's session, we are going to be focusing on assessment. And with us, we have the curriculum specialist, Mr. Matthias Mulumba is with us. Mr. Mulumba, you are most welcome, and thank you so much for creating time for us such that we learn together in this journey. Our session is going to be for 1.5 hours, and it is going to be an interactive session, and I beg that you pay attention, and we shall have a session whereby you will be able to ask your questions depending on the presentation. And also, in case you have any question concerning the new curriculum, prepare to ask your question after Mr. Matthias's presentation. Allow me now to welcome Mr. Matthias to take us through the presentation.
Thank you, host. Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. You are most welcome to this session of reimagining assessment in the new lower secondary curriculum. I want to welcome on board all the teachers, all the administrators, all the participants for this session. And I would like to say that the new lower secondary curriculum can be only complete when teaching, learning, and assessment are understood. So today's session, we go ahead to the learning outcome. You are going to prove that you can learn, or you can do, or you have learned to do something. We are going also to identify the different assessment approaches that are there. We are also going to see how can we apply some of these approaches as required by the reviewed lower secondary curriculum. Those are our learning outcome, and that is the journey that we would like to take. I would particularly welcome some people who are joining us for the first time, like people from Mbale, people from Uganda SS, Mbale SS, and Teso College Lloyd. Then our friends who have been here, all of you are most welcome. So to begin, we go to the next slide. We have a question, and we are going to use the chat room to name two parts of a computer. So I would like to take you directly to the chat room, and you share with us two parts of a computer that you know. So administrator, open the chat room. So I'm starting to get the answers. One answer is the monitor. Another answer is the keyboard and screen. Another answer is keyboard, mouse. I can see one is writing monitor. Keyboard, CPU, motherboard, hard disk. So the question was asking you two parts but from the chat room, I can see most people are writing only one part of the computer. That is, from that point, you can see I'm starting to know that some people know one part of the computer, others have put two answers, and that is a good step in teaching and learning. So in the new curriculum, we start from what is known. So we can go ahead to the next slide. Here in the next slide, I'm showing you the different parts that we commonly see on the computer. And as people put it, we have the central processing unit. We have the UPS, we have the monitor, we have the mouse, we have the keyboard. But most people did not mention these other four things. The scanner was not mentioned. It is part of the computer. The printer, many of you did not give me that answer. The pen drive, some people call it flash, in our others call it dongle. Then the speakers and many others that you can imagine. So from the first stage to here, we have started, what do you know about the parts of the computer? And now I'm concretizing, I'm informing you that there are many parts, even some of them which you did not think about. So, and that is what the new lower secondary curriculum is all about, that you start from the known to the unknown, and you first pose a question. I did this because as we are online now, my assumption, because the teacher must know the learners, my assumption, I knew that all of people who are on this session are conversant with the computer and they must be knowing the parts. So I wanted to check, and some people call that diagnostic checking of the learner. You are finding out where are they on the learning curve. Next, we would like to go ahead and emphasize. And now this is another question. What does one identified part of the computer do? Here we are going to use raising your hand. And I want to start with the first person who wants to raise the hand. And the host will help me pick the CPU, the central processing unit. What does it do? What does the central processing unit do? By raising your hand, you raise your hand and we pick you. And you tell us. Raise your hand and tell us one part you have identified, what it does. We have the CPU, the monitor, the mouse, the printer, the UPS. They are participants who is ready to share with us one part he has identified and what it does in the computer.
Mr. Mulumba, we have Matthias Cheyune.
Yes, tell us, Cheyune.
Yes, the CPU processes data into information.
Great. Which information is processed by CPU?
The data entered by the user.
Data entered by the user. Can you name some data?
Of course, data is that these are the raw facts, the letters, the numbers.
Yeah, so that is Cheyune has given us that. Another person whose hand up is up should share with us. First to pick that one.
Bossa.
Bossa, tell us. Bossa, unmute and tell us.
Okay. I think we can go to Walter.
Walter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mulumba and Stephen. I have identified the monitor, and this one helps us to display.
Hello?
Walter has said, is it Walter or?
Yes, Dennis Walter.
Dennis Walter, he has told us that the monitor helps us display. Displaying what?
Display different features of the computer, like user interface and other.
Let us go to the next person to tell us about the keyboard. What does the keyboard do?
Okay, Sam.
Yes, thank you. I think the keyboard is used for typing information into a computer.
So keyboard is used for typing. Where is the keyboard found? Where is the keyboard found? Somebody tell us where the keyboard is found.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kaziba, Mr. Mulumba. The keyboard is an, can we say, input device that we use. It's just plugged in and we use it for typing.
Yeah. So that is good, but let me now finalize here on looking at the identified part with the mouse. What does the mouse do? Another person who has raised up the hand. Host, pick one.
Irana, you can unmute.
Thank you very much. The mouse is used for moving the cursor.
Moves the cursor. Where is the cursor moving?
On the monitor.
On the monitor. So you can see now we are going into more and more details. We first started from what do you know? We came to seeing those things that we know. And now we are going into more and more details about each part that we know. Let us move to the next slide. And I've seen here some answers also in the chat room. CPU, that's where processing occurs. So we can go to make the learning more rigorous and relevant and through probing follow-up questions. And that's what I've been doing. Like I have here questions which you are going to keep for yourself. We are not going to answer them, but they are important questions for us. What else can you tell me about the computer parts? Somebody can give us answers and the descriptions will be so rich. Then how do you know that the computer parts you have identify work? This one, we need some hands to tell us. How do you know that the computer parts you have identified work? Some hands should tell us. Yes. Question two.
Mike, your hand is already up.
Mike, we are waiting for your response. Mike's hand is not telling us. Another person has raised their hand. There are two.
Matthias Cheyune.
Cheyune, tell us. How do you know that the computer parts you have identified works? Cheyune?
Hello?
Yes, Cheyune.
You're getting me?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the keyboard, I have to plug it into the system unit and then press the keys to find out whether it's working or not.
Where do you know that it is working from? Where do you know?
Well, when I press the keyboard, it has some light. It has some LED, light emitting diodes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is a good response. The diodes will give light and that light will tell me it is working. Can't it give the light and you don't have anything that is working? Is there a possibility? that the light is on, but the keyboard is not working? Or any?
Yes, my contribution would be that if I touch any button on the keyboard and I can be able to see what I've touched on the keyboard appearing on top, that's when I can say the keyboard is working.
Good. So when you see on the screen the letter or the number that you have touched, if it appears on the screen, then you know the keyboard is working. But normally all of you are aware that you may find some of the keyboards, some you touch D, then that thing appears. Or you touch D and then you see another letter P instead of D. So it means the keyboard has challenges, so you have to troubleshoot it or make it work the right way. So the other question is that which I've put here, what evidence from the resources available support your thinking? That is what Pascal was telling us. I'm trying to explain what resources. He said on the screen is a resource that enables us to know whether the keyboard is working. Then how would you design any one computer part different from the one we have seen? Some people, can you tell us if we have all those parts, in which different way can we design them? Any suggestions? If we had all the resources.
We have Pasco's hand up.
Yes, Pasco. Pasco, we are waiting for your answer. Pasco's hand is there another person?
Not yet.
If you looked maybe at a keyboard, a CPU, a monitor, a mouse, can you design it in a different way? What suggestions do you have? Eric, there is Eric there. Bossa, what is Eric telling us? On the chat room, Eric is saying the LED indicators show the functionality status of the component. Can we make these indicators differently from the LED?
Mr. Mulumba, we have someone who's hand up.
Yes.
Administrator.
Administrator, tell us. Admin.
Question is not very clear, but I think keyboard, can I use the on-screen keyboard?
Yes. So this question is, as the administrator is saying, it is not clear. So that is more challenging. That is a challenging question. It is not an obvious question for every Tom and Dick. And that is where learning is. When we go to real life, things in real life are very challenging. They are not clear. And we need to do this kind of assessment such that learners are scaffolded. They are made to think beyond the obvious. So how the cloud computing came, it came from this, that instead of storing our data in the CPU or on the drives, let us store it in the cloud. And that's how cloud computing came in place. So it came as a result of saying, can we design this part differently? And the cloud computing came into place that we need to store our data in the cloud, such that if I'm going to the US, even if I don't carry the computers or the CD drive, When I reach there, I open my address on the internet, and then I can be able to access the information which I made in Uganda. So that is very complex. It's not obvious, and that's why we got challenges from there. It is equally the same as the last question here. What new and unusual way would you create for the computer? It is quite challenging because most people have seen the computer do A, B, C, D, but which other thing which we have never known can you create for the computer? None of us knows it, but for you are thinking that, I think people have not used the computer for this. Let me see if it can do it, and then you are in business. We got the next slide. I want to emphasize that HELP, our organization, which has organized this training, has been offering all of us, the participants, training. So my observation has been that on 31st July, we had 12 females and 41 males. Then on the 7th of August, 9 females and 17 males. On 14th, 16 females and 25 males. So that is information. What are the different softwares you can use from the computer to handle this information? Can I get some answers in the chat room? What different softwares we can use to handle this information? So open the chat room for people to type in 1 minute or 2. So I've seen Elisa telling us in the chat room, more people can type. What softwares can we? The spreadsheets, MS Word, database. I'm getting more answers. MS Access. So PowerPoint, you can see. What software is best for you to use to capture this information? What is the best? The others were general, but what is now the best to capture that information? We can get answers. Somebody, the last one had typed PowerPoint. Another one has said MS Access, Dungu, and then Angela's PowerPoint. Then the Chinese is MS Excel. Masava is saying spreadsheets. Said is saying Excel. Richard is saying Word. Again from Asea. Next, PowerPoint from Harriet. Mbayo is telling us Excel. And when you do a quick tallying, you could find that spreadsheet is taking lead, the other softwares are not. So let us move to the next one. Next slide. If this was your first time to be asked to capture the information, what would you expect to see? So you have identified Excel. What would you expect to see a learner do or be able to go through to be able to do it in Excel? Any hands? One hand, tell us if it is your first time. What happened your first time? You have data there and the computer is there for you. What happened? Host, can you pick some hands up?
Yes, I'm still waiting for someone.
If I rephrase the question is, what happened to you the first time you have information of people who have attended, males, females, and the dates? What happened to you? How did you handle the information? We are expecting hands. So Masaba is writing
Yes.
that people could pick pens and paper to draw tables. Good.
We have a hand. Sam.
Yes. Sam, tell us.
Yes, thank you. I am not sure whether the question is asking if the information is on paper or already typed. But if it is not typed, I think the first thing a student should do, like the first thing I did was to enter the information. I was using actually Excel. And to enter the information, Excel has rows and columns. So you create rows, rather you create columns as small headings. For example, number of males, number of females, then maybe columns, rather the rows. You can create them as the dates. Then you start entering the information.
Good. So that explanation takes us to what this also was saying. You draw a table. So the table can be drawn in Word as people had put in the beginning. You can now go to Excel sheet or the spreadsheet, which is already made tables. Then you identify the columns, identify the rows. Then you find the titles for these things. Another person said you make graphs here. Then another one says he makes a screenshot. All of those are different ways. Is it the best? That is the question. But the first time, let us go to the next. Okero wanted to tell us something. Okero, I saw Okero's hand. Okero. Okero has gone. Okay. Okero. Is Okero still there?
Yes, I'm there, sir.
Tell us what you wanted to tell us. The words have disappeared, Okero.
Mr. Matthias, I think he had forgotten his hand up.
Okay, let us move. So as people have mentioned earlier on, you start with insert a table or you create a table. Then after creating the table, you can export the table to Excel application. That is how you move. And I'm trying to show you the tables can be there up in Word. Then you come to Excel and export them there. That is one way you can do it. But if it is the first time, things are different. Let us move to the next slide. And when the information is in the Excel sheet, you can make an histogram, use bar graphs, and make, as somebody put it there, up. You draw bar graphs for the male and female, and the graphs will appear. First, you can draw for one sex, and then I used these ones for the sake of completing. The dates are put down. And then here you have the male and the female using different colors. It comes on the side of the screen. So it appears the information will be very handy for you. So you can find that the computer is doing much more from where we began to here where we are going deep in the use of computers, and every day you are learning something new. So these are different days that you go through. So we can move forward to the next slide. So the computer concept in our life is important. And here I have one question. What data should be included in your participants register attending your training session if you have created a session of training? So here in the chat room, I want some answers from 4 people in the chat room. If you have participants attending your training, which data will you include in your register? I want 4 people in the chat room to tell us the data they would include. Name of participant, good, from Cheyune. Contacts from Tibairuka. Name, address, email, telephone from Mumbai. The place, number of days attended. So I want to emphasize here that a lot of information can come in according to how you are thinking. And that shows that we are not at the same level of thinking. So don't assume the class will be at the same level. And that, for me, that is an assessment. We are looking at what do you know about information that you need to capture. And from these suggestions, you find some people have only one, others have many. So using the Excel, this one you are not going to do. I'm just reading for the purposes of making it clear. In Excel sheet, you find that you can design the participants register for help training. Maybe that is your homework, which you will share with help. Which information? If you, using your digital device, get a photograph, what will you ask the participants to do in this Zoom meeting to be able to get their picture? I want an answer by show of hands. If you wanted to include the picture in your data to be captured, what will you tell the participants to do?
Okay, Sam.
Sam, tell us.
I will ask them to turn their cameras on.
Great. So when they turn on the camera, what will you do to get their photographs or their pictures?
I can take a screenshot of my screen because they will be having their cameras, rather their pictures.
Then how will you keep the pictures you have taken?
I will store it, I will save it on my phone or on my laptop, depending on the device. Then if I want to include it on in the spreadsheet or the data, the register, then I will put it against their names.
Good. So Okero has enabled us to reach the last question almost. And which of the features that of the word processor will be helpful in using the photographs taken? He has been talking about Excel. Now, if you are using a word processor, which feature of the word processor will be helpful for you to use these photographs taken? Somebody has said cropping, that the cropping feature can be helpful. On the chat room here, that's what I'm reading. Wandera will say first log off and try to log back with the computer audio. Javira is advising Wandera. Which feature of the word processor will be helpful in using the photos taken? Some answers. Do we have some hands up?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, I've seen somebody, the insert, then text wrapping. All of these will come up and they would like to go to the next slide. Those are different things that you can explore. So the next slide is asking us, what do you see? And when you look at these pictures, what do we see? By show of hands, what do we see in each of the pictures? We have picture 1 and picture 2. The participants tell us, what do you see?
Okelo Sam.
Yes, in picture 1, I can see a parent or a sister trying to show or teach the young sister something on a computer.
Good, that is a very good observation. In picture 2, another person should tell us by show of hands. Picture 2. By show of hands on picture 2.
Matthias Cheyune.
Cheyune.
Yes, I think in picture 2, the child is serving juice to either parent or
an adult.
An adult, yes.
Okay, that is great. I've seen 4 participants raising up their hand. Can we quickly pick them?
Mike Bayo.
Thank you so much. In picture 2, I see a child kneeling, handing over a cup of something to a lady. Good. And what I see is that the place they are seated looks to be like a sitting room or a living room.
Good. Next, the next hand.
Irana.
Thank you very much. I'm also seeing a girl kneeling, serving either the parents or the elder sister, I don't know. And then I see some sofa set there.
Yes, picture 1. What about picture 1?
Pardon?
Picture 1. In picture 1, what do you see?
Picture 1, I see a mother trying to teach the daughter using a laptop.
Great. There are 2 more hands that are still. Pick one host. Pick one hand.
Richard.
Richard,
now in picture 1, may I see a teacher in lockdown?
Yes.
Trying to teach young girls.
And I see on the chat room there is homeschooling, there is lockdown, parents in lockdown with their children, and they are learning and working. So there are some words that are disappearing, but let us pick the 2 hands. There is 2 participants raising their hands.
Administrator.
Administrator, tell us. Hello?
I'm seeing a remote in picture 1 here. Anything you can see.
Oh, sorry. The sound interfered. Okay. Let us conclude this as we go to the next slide. We go to the next slide. So, whatever we have been going through is what is success. Assessing comes from the Latin assidere, which means to sit beside. I've been trying to be close to you in this distance to see where are you and how can I support you. So the pictures that we have just looked at literally demonstrates. On the picture 1, we go back to the picture. Host, take us back. Picture 1 is saying the parent or the elder sister is sitting beside the person learning. And picture 2 is saying, what did I teach you? Can you demonstrate it? All of that is assessment. During picture 1, it is the beginning, and picture 2 is the end. You see, you are seated beside to see the experience and how it is being acquired. You first sit beside, and then But I see Kitui raising her hand up. So tell us, Kitui, what is your take? Harriet? Is Harriet's hand still up?
She has put it down.
Okay, we can move. Now we got the next slide. The next. So what about here? Here, you are seeing the first picture is they are making silage. And the one who knows is behind, and those who are learning are in front of him and is still supporting them to do the silage making. One is holding the watering can. On picture number 2, you find the learners have been given a task, but the person teaching them is close, is not very far, and is making them do. But others have been put where they are supposed to do. They are there and they are trying to learn and is assessing how they can do it. We got the next. Here again, in the real life, the younger girls are learning how to prepare food. And it is stage by stage. The first part, they are preparing the banana leaves. And now they use the banana leaves and they go to a higher level of wrapping food in the banana leaves. And that is, all those stages we are continuously assessing. We are sitting beside to support the learning process. We got the next slide. So, in teaching and learning, many of us, we do formative assessment. And what does it mean? You make me as good as the expert. You saw right away from the beginning, I wanted you to be good as the expert in knowing the parts of the computer. We went ahead to go deeper to see that you can become an expert. And that's how we reached Word, Excel, or Word and Excel, and how to use it. When do you apply it in real life? We are making you as good as the expert. It is of no use to know that Excel has columns and rows and you cannot use them. Or you just enter any data. It should be data that has meaning in life. So the attendance of the participants for the training of help would be a good use of Excel. So you capture that, you saw very many things people wanted to capture: the serial number, the name, the date, the age, the sex. So many things. So the columns become useful, and then you have the names of the participants, the dates, and then you can generate, even use the information collected and generate a graph. Likewise here, when somebody is sitting beside, after learning the computer, then use it and do something useful. Or if I've taught you to serve people, how do you serve? Traditionally, we tell people to kneel down to serve us. And that is what the second picture there was telling us. Finally here, where we had these two gentlemen training the younger people, they are making them to prepare silage. Silage is a feed for animals. So how do we make it? They go and participate, they do it, such that when it's not there, they can do it on their own, and so on. So during that learning process, there are many opportunities to make me as good as the expert. You correct me and bring me to the standard. So you do that through 3 things. You observe or watch me as I interact with the task. Then you can converse with me. You saw this gentleman who was on the silage pointing to one of the learners. So is talking with the learner and asking probing questions. Like from the beginning, I had the questions I was posing to you. And as I posed the questions and follow-up questions, many of you started giving me answers, and I'm driving you to the standard, the required standard. And finally, we get a product which we can look at. Like if you made an attendance register for the participants in the HELP training that we are carrying out today, and I ask you to post it to us. That is what we should be demanding from you and the host. Make for us a sample register that they would use for this training and how it would appear in Excel. Then that sample register becomes our product that we can look at. And all of that is assessment, but we are making you as good as the expert. Because after we have trained you, you go out in the world. And when you reach the world, you will find an opportunity where a register is required or an attendance sheet is required. And then you decide, today, I'm now in my village and we have maybe a function where we are organizing a meeting, a wedding meeting. So which information do we need? So telephone number would be very useful. The amount somebody is contributing would be useful, and so on. Then your knowledge of the Excel will now be applied in real life. But during the teaching and learning process, we trained you only to make a register. So we need to move now to the next slide. And those who are having challenges, they look for where the tallest tower is and they stand on it. We do summative assessment as well as the part of assessment. And this comes at the end of the instructional unit. The topic, the term, the year, the cycle, the program, the period. You must have a summative assessment. You are testing the learner to know whether they have learned what they have learned during the entire instruction. It sums up. You put together a report on their achievement by the evidence they give you. So what are the examples of this in your situation? Can you give me examples of summative assessment that you do in the chat room? I give you 2 minutes to write in the chat room. Examples of summative assessment in your situation. That is what I would like to hear from you. Write them in the chat room. So by 26 minutes past 3, we must be there. Oh, 24, 25. I see some responses already. I need more responses. They are coming. Yes, that's good. I see very many coming up. Good. So there is an interesting one. The interesting one has come. Let me pick it. It is from who? Oh, there is an interesting one from Flavia. I saw an interesting one from Flavia, and that's the beginning of term. That one is not as summative because which period are you assessing? The others fit in, but a follow-up question for Flavia would be, what does beginning of term summarize? Is it which instruction happened before the beginning of term? which instruction happened. So it is just a creation that people put, but it has no meaning. It has no meaning completely. Because before the beginning of term, we ask ourselves, what instruction happened? What teaching and learning activities happened? And there is none. So that is kind of assessment is not summative. And we need to be clear about that. So let us move to the next slide. So here I'm giving the examples that I had prepared, and mainly they are end of unit or end of chapter, end of topic, end of term, end of year. They can be projects, and then the final project results, the portfolios that people have made. You can make achievement tests. Like the last one we had, where people are assessed to see what have they achieved after some instruction. Then we have a standardized test. Normally this is in the international schools. They have what they call the checkpoint assessment in the international school. So it is standardized to check the learners at that checkpoint, and it is standardized. Then we have national exams like you have mentioned, and here you can assign learners grades. So UNEB exams and many other exams which are not UNEB, the General School Certificate of Education by Cambridge or by these international schools, the SAT exams, and so on. All those can be summative assessment, but they must occur after a period of instruction. They must be a period of instruction. So let us move to the next. So here is an activity. What is the name of each of these 4 items? There are 4 items on the screen, and I want answers in the chat room. We can name this one host, we can name this one number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Two, 3, and 4. So let us put our responses in the chat room. What is the name of each of these 4 items? So I'm waiting for the responses in the chat room. Let us open the chat room. So I see somebody saying number 1 is a magazine. Number 2 is a newspaper. I see responses. Next, more answers. Number 1, number 2. We have not reached number 3. Some people are not telling me about number 3. Number 3, yes, I've seen an answer. Number 4, I've seen magazine. Somebody, Elisa, has given me a number of them, a number of responses. Number 4 is sports. We need to get a clear answer for number 4 because I've not yet seen number 4, answer for number 4. Some people are saying a journal. Number 4. Text document. Which text document are we talking about? Which number? Bossa, can you tell us the number? A tabloid number. Somebody has brought a new name, tabloid. That is Victoria. Harriet is telling us a sports magazine. So from Victoria, if we put it in the computer language, what would be number 4? in computer language. What is number 4? Somebody is saying a cover, another one is saying chapter, rather flyer. Yeah, somebody has brought a flyer. So we can go on a graphic, an advert with a graphic. Let us go to the next slide. How was each one produced? If we started with the magazine entrepreneurship, how was it produced? If we can write the answers. Let me, by show of hands, what more answers can we get? Mbayo is telling us micro publishers. Is it MS publisher or illustrator was one of the things that was used. So typing the text first. Another one is saying desktop publishing. More responses? Host, do we have any person raising up the hand?
Not yet, not yet.
Typing and printing from Irana. Collecting articles, editing, typing, sealing, and publishing from Sam. Okay, let me cap it at that point. All of these, we could give them one name and the name, their publications, and the computer is very handy. Now, after this training, think about what you can do, put the computer to, and how you would do it differently from what we have been seeing so far since we began. Like now, we have put the computer to be one way we can reach each other at a distance. So we are doing online training for teachers. So for the schools, or for all of you, the participants, where you are, you can work with your colleagues and train each other on what you know using the computer. So I can say, Gayaza, Javira, can you organize teachers there and train them using the computer? We have people from Iganges, yes. Can you? We have people from, I've not seen people from Mbarara, but if we have some people from Mbarara, can we? If I've seen some people from Guru, can you work with your friends at a distance and use the computer to teach each other, to share information, to collaborate and work differently? Because we are living in a new world. And currently it is the COVID pandemic, but you don't know what will come tomorrow. So how can we take advantage? How can we leverage the computer to continue doing work that champion our lives to live a better life? So we can move on to the next. So using computers can be handy. If when you are typing, you saw the host, when he forgot the spelling of, when the words were not the right one, he used an eraser. But you can completely remove the word, you erase it, maybe using the backspace, and you remove it, and you avoid using the word which you don't know. But also, you can use the computer to make a birthday card. And with the internet, you can send the birthday card to the person. During my old time, the birthday card had to go through the post office, you put it in an envelope, then you send it. But with internet, we can reach everywhere. Like now, I'm reaching you by the use of the computer and internet connected together. So the use of internet and the computer is handy in our teaching and learning process. And we would like to encourage you, members who are coming on board, like we can work around our schools if you have the computers. And some of the schools have already been connected by RENU and Uganda Communication Commission on internet. Can you, like we informed you that I'm going to have a session on this topic, members of my subject. Personally, I come from agriculture. I can say, members of agriculture in this sub-county, we are going to have an online training. One, you make a register such that you collect information. One of them is telephone contacts. And then you can send them the session time through the phone. And then you say at 2:30 on Saturday, each week, we shall have our session. I want to tell you that when I went to Singapore, there was protected time for learning by teachers, and it occurred on every Wednesday. The students on Wednesday from 1 up to 5 had to be free. They do whatever they want on their own, what interests them, and nobody is stopping them because it is protected time for teachers to learn from each other. So we can borrow a leaf from that, and we use the computer and the internet to do many things. We got the next slide. So this is a famous picture that we have been using in the new lower secondary curriculum. That assessment should not be a one-size-fits. That everybody should fit in that assessment. Like here, if you have the duck from the beginning here, you have the monkey, you have the bird, the elephant, the fish, the dog, and so on. And tell them, can all of you, to be fair, climb that tree? The elephant will just break the tree. And the fish will never climb that tree because it doesn't have the skills. So if you judge me, or you judge the fish on a skill it doesn't have, it will believe it is stupid. And you announce the results like many of you go to the assembly. Mulumba, you got 12 at the beginning of term. Mulumba, you got 13 in mid-term. Mulumba, you got 10 in end of term. So Mulumba, what you are assessing this learner on, you are using a skill he has not acquired. So you need to first do formative assessment. Make me as good as the expert. If we want the fish to climb the tree, let us train the fish on how to climb the tree. And if it is failing to climb, we find ways of scaffolding it, supporting it to be able to climb. So we create a leg on the trunk of the tree, on the stem of the tree, such that it's able also to climb on the tree. And that leg should be able to support a fish when the water is standing erect, and that will require a lot of creativity. Otherwise, take the fish to the lake in the natural water and ask it to move a big distance, it will move. So we can move to the next. Here, if this is another kind of thing, we need to set standards. Which standards are we going to jump? So if we want learners, there is an echo there. There is an echo there. Kaziba, support us. Okay, learners should be told the standards that you want them to meet in your assessment. These standards must be known. And here I'm using the high jump as one way to demonstrate what a set standard is. People who do high jump, they know the height they are going to jump. So they either decide that I have the ability to jump, so I don't need to train, or they first train and see if they can jump that height. And when a height is set, the high jumper would say, but I can do even much more than this. Can you set a new standard which is higher? Like you saw in the Olympics, people were beating their previous record of running. So the standard was known that somebody can run in so many minutes. And then when he's given 1,500 meters, he starts and then he beats his or her own record. So we need to do assessment which is known. There should be no hiding of information. So what is our set standard? In our schools, are we having set standards? And what do you do when you achieve it? You raise the bar up. So we can move next slide. Here is a mathematics question. And I want one participant to read it, and then the responses are there. We shall get the answer. One participant can raise up the hand and you read for the session. Bagaya
Yes.
Victoria has raised the hand. Can you read?
Okay, thanks. Titled Mathematics. If numerator of a fraction is increased by 200% and denominator by 250%, the resultant fraction is 3/14. What is the original fraction? A, 1/6 or a sixth, B, 2/3, C, 3/14, and D, 15/56. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So some people who have done quick calculation, they would be telling us the answer, but let us go to the next one. The next slide. So this is another question, another participant to read it for us.
Zeria, Navilia, Zulia.
Thank you very much. Reading mathematics. It reads mathematics. A train running at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour crosses a pole in 9 seconds. What is the length of the train? A, 100 centimeters. B, 180 meters. C, 324 meters. D, 150 meters. Then the last bulletin
No,
says,
don't read the last one, leave out the last one.
all right.
You have seen the questions, members. We thank the two participants for reading the questions. What do we say about these two questions? Now that is our task.
Try, maybe we shall try.
What do we say about these two questions? Anybody who is ready, either on the chat room or by raising the hand, can tell us.
Zulia's hand is already up.
Yes, Zulia. Unmute and tell us.
Maybe we can have some.
Some.
Yes, thank
we
you.
are waiting for Sam.
Thank you. The first question to me seemed more of a remembering question, where somebody has to remember how that is done, how that calculation is done. Then this last question seems to be an application, trying to apply the knowledge of how some calculation is done somewhere to a real life situation.
Hey. Okay, people want to display the two questions, but both questions, first go back to the first one and then the second one. That was the first question. And it had the fraction increased by 200%, the denominator by 250%, and the resultant fraction 3 out of 14, and then some answers. I think we have seen that first question. Then let us move to the second question. The second question was a train at a particular speed, passing a pole in 9 seconds, and they are asking you the length of the train. And somebody has said they are multiple choice questions, and that is what I've read from a number of people, that these are multiple choice questions. Elisa said so, and then Chitu, you wanted us to display it. The question is, and then we can now move on. And Angela told us they are high order questions, and the explanation from Sam is clear to all of us, that one required you to just remember things, another one required you to look for some more skills, and so on. So all of these are telling you that we can have different questions. And these questions are saying, are we inclusive in what we do in the assessment? If you bring only those questions, those kind of questions to the learners, are you taking care of these different learning types? That is a reflection that we should think. There are people who learn by looking at pictures. They prefer pictures, images. And then there are those who prefer using sound, music. And there are those who prefer talking. There are those who want to do by their hands. There are those who want to do logical things, like you have seen there, the logic in mathematics there. And then social, they want to talk to each other about the questions. Then there are those who want to be alone, and they think alone and they don't want to share what they are doing. So where are you learning best? Personally, I'm very good in the verbal. I want to talk a lot. And if you asked me about talking, question is only to talk. That would be like me being in the water, like the fish is in the water. It enjoys being there. And other people are not like me. So is our assessment inclusive? That is something we need to think about. Next, we move forward. So assessment in the lower secondary curricula is all those forms that I've given you, but I want to summarize that we have formative assessment. Some people call it classroom assessment. And it is done, currently we are looking at it in 3 ways. You are making the learner to be good, so you must converse with the learner. So you create clarity through conversation. Then you observe, you strengthen what they do. You can use body language to say, yes, you are there, you are tick, but you have not talked. You just observing. So strength. Then physically get the product. You touch it. You touch it. Contact, it means we are in reach of each other. So I am in reach with your output. So that is the success criteria for formative. If I have told the child that this is how they serve somebody the juice, I want to see that the child serves me the juice and I see if the child has learned. Like the other madam was sitting besides, was observing the young girl as he works with the computer. Then in the picture of the signage, you realize the gentleman who was in red was pointing to the learner and was creating clarity. So all of those opportunities are there to make somebody as good as the expert. Next slide. We would like to emphasize that assessment in the new lower secondary curriculum also allows us to have an overall assessment. And this overall assessment wants to see if the learner has met the standards. And which standards have we set in the new lower curriculum? Learning outcomes and competences. So we ask the learners to answer some tasks, to respond to some tasks, and we determine whether they have become competent. So the first step of assessment to see if the learning outcomes have been achieved, after formative assessment, you have gone through all the learning outcomes, all of the competences of the concept. We give you an end of topic assessment, which we have called activity of integration. And that activity of integration is assessed using scenarios. A scenario, and then a support, and the task. So the scenario is very, very, very important because it must be talking about a pertinent issue, a novel, that is unfamiliar life situation. Because in real life, we meet unfamiliar things, and those things are demanding from us answers or responses. Some of the things we meet are complex. They are puzzling, or some people call it perplexing. You don't know exactly what is the answer. So you mobilize resources to see if those resources, the things you have in you, can be able to help you respond effectively. So that is the end of topic assessment. We can go to the next slide. And in the traditional way, our assessment, if you have been taught about behavior change in employers, this is the kind of question that you get. And one of the participants can read for us this statement and the responses thereafter. By show of hands, somebody can read for us.
Christine?
Traditional based assessment. What is the best strategy for encouraging long-term behavior changes in your employees? What the A is give them better position for changing behavior. B is invite those identified to office for khaki enveloped reward. C is ignore all behavior doesn't support whose behavior doesn't support you. Then D is writing warning letters and suspensions to those who are opposing set goals.
So we can quickly get an answer. That is the traditional way of assessment. They ask you, and the answers are from what was given to you. We go to the next. So we need another person to read for us.
George.
Joyani is a sales manager who has been trying to motivate his team to have better the performance and improve sales. the team was sent to a conference where they learned about sharing stories. This was especially about their previous happy customers. Some of the team members really used the technique. Suggest what Joyanni can do to encourage everybody to use that approach. So the option is here. We have A, threaten to put anyone not using the approach on performance improvement plan. B, offer verbal recognition in the weekly team meeting for using storytelling. C, arrange a paid trip to Dubai for using storytelling. And lastly, D, award a certificate of recognition for outstanding performance in storytelling.
So quickly, because time has run out, I want to emphasize the two approaches. This one is the scenario-based assessment. It is different from the traditional one. And we are asking the same concept, but this one has been applied to real life. And the responses are some of the ways our administrators and managers use to manage us. Let us go ahead to the next slide. So activity of integration tells us that you started with the competence and you go through activities, you use very many tools, you use very many supporting materials to learn. And you are formatted, you are made as good as the expert. Then at the end of it, we check with an activity of integration to see if you have achieved the competence. So that is the graphic picture of it. And the activity of integration should have a scenario like the one we have just seen of Joanne, a real life situation, a puzzling situation. Because when you look at the responses there, some of them are puzzling. The best, is it to take me to Dubai because I've never been there? Or is it to get a certificate of recognition? Because I have this certificate that I'm very outstanding, I can use it even in another place and I can ask for a job in another place. I say, I'm very good in using storytelling to keep sales rising up. Or as a manager, I just threaten, I will put you on a performance improvement plan. And when you are put there, it means your cards are going out. You are likely to be chased at a time. So which one do we use? The responses themselves are puzzling. Another one will say, I will be praising you in a meeting. So you realize these are puzzling. Which one is the best out of all these? And all of us have a way we handle our people when we want them to do better. And some of the answers may not be, they are correct according to you, but they are not the best in that situation. So we move forward to the next slide. Next. So when you have been given an activity of integration, there is a marking guide. And this guide, we are calling it an assessment grid. The features of the assessment grid are here. We have an output. That is what is supposed to be delivered. We have a basis of evaluation. What is the focus? Like in our previous question, the focus was to choose the best option. And then relevance. How closely connected is it to the issue? Then accuracy. What is correct? Then coherence. What makes sense? And excellence. What is extraordinary? Therefore, in the multiple choice, we are looking for the excellent response. What is the excellent response? Which combines all of these first three, and it comes out to be the outstanding way of handling our employees. But in the essay type, we shall see when we go down. So relevance, accuracy, coherence, and excellence are the standards. They are the set standards, and they must be known to the learners, all of them. We move forward. Next slide. So this is another form of assessment that we can do in the new lower secondary curriculum. Test soil and construct a model earthen pond of 3 meters by 1.5 meters and 0.5 meters at the shallow end and 0.7 meters at the deep end of a slope of 1 meter. So the materials are given to you, and then you are able to do it. They want to see you do it physically, like you go to a driving school. If you want to get a driving permit, you do what we call a performance task assessment. And this is one way we can do it in agriculture, that this is a performance. We want to see somebody really test the soil, then construct the pond where he has tested the soil. So we are there watching him, observing him, like in the car driving school. And that kind of assessment is competence-based assessment. It is from the new lower secondary curriculum. We move to the next. So this is another scenario. And the text here, which I'm reading, Pokot is a village in Napaka district of Uganda. People of this area use herbs to cure diseases. In addition, they seek treatment of ailments from traditional healers. A handful of residents can read notices or directions to use. The instructions on the inputs and standard operating procedures are put in the dustbins. The people sell their cereals and legume harvests in heaps or weaved baskets. So the support is a traditional healer, and you can see him. This is the support, because we said they seek treatment from traditional healer, and here is the traditional healer. The text and the picture have a relationship. So next is the task. We go to the next slide. You are among the missionaries who have learned about this area. Write an article for a newspaper to inform the local authorities what you will be doing there. So that is what we want you to do. The problems are in the task. The perplexing task, people are seeking medical treatment from a traditional healer. They are selling their harvest in baskets or heaps. All of those are puzzling things, but they are real. They are real life situations. So as a missionary, what are you going to do? So this is from history, and we are now talking about missionary work in East Africa. And that is the task you have to do. It is not just to recall. These are the impacts of the missionaries. No, that is not what we are looking for. Because missionaries even right now are there. We have seen very many Pentecostal churches getting established in very many places. And they start with a praying, they go building a hospital or a clinic, they build a school, they start transporting people, they have events management and so on. And they train people in very many things. So that is what we would like to see you. The children are seeing these things every day. We go to the next thing, next slide. So the missionary work will become the evaluation. And we said we want an article. So the learners are put, and here we are again using Excel that we started with. Now it is being applied. We have the columns, output column, basis of evaluation column, learners column, relevance, accuracy, coherence, excellence, and the total score. So we can wrap here or make the column smaller, the row, and then it becomes more manageable. But the learners are put here. We have Basil. For bringing things that are connected to missionary work, Basil gets 3. For being accurate, Basil gets 2. He puts the things the right way, they are right and correct. And for making sense when you read through the statements, gets 2. And is saying an outstanding thing, Basil gets 1. Then Gianni, those are the scores, is really a struggling student. Then Zu gets those, is a medium student. Then Shen gets those marks. So you go on, this is what we expect the teacher to tell us in assessment. And you are going to use Excel. When you have done this, for that topic, it is done. You go and open the second sheet for the next topic. You open the third sheet, the worksheet for the third topic, and you hand in these worksheets to the Director of Studies or Deputy Academics. We go to the next slide. So what will you do in your classroom or school as a result of this training session? That is the question that I'm leaving with you, but which I want you to reflect on. Let us move to the next. And I want to thank you all. This has been a learning journey for all of us. And we would like to thank you so much for being here and allowing me to share with you the new lower secondary curriculum. We are diving deep now in the waters, as you see that picture on the screen. Thank you. Over to the host.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthias, for the presentation. At this moment, we are going to take on questions. We are going to take on questions. You can raise up the hand, and then we shall pick you, and then you ask your question. So in case you have any question concerning assessment, please go on and raise up your hand. Mr. Matthias is here. Yes, George.
Thank you, host. At the level where we had to assess different children according to their different abilities. That means you really give different tasks to each of the children or the learners. And I now come, if you want to do like a standard grading, what would you base on to give that national grading that can be understood by everybody everywhere? Just like what UNEP does currently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Let's go to Victoria.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to ask a question on the excellence mark, that 1 mark. What do you consider to award a student that 1 mark? From the few trainings I've gone through, we've been told that that 1 mark is rare. Yeah. And at times we find issues. Can you enlighten us more? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Victoria. Yes, Masanyo. Yes, Masanyo.
Yes, thank you very much. My question is on rewarding. We are told that the highest mark is 3, yet now here I've seen the total mark is 8 and others 7. What? I need to get more elaboration about that.
Okay, thank you, Masanyo. Teacher Esther. Teacher Esther? I think Teacher Esther is still, okay. Mr. Mumba, maybe let's first take on those questions. Mr. Mulumba, unmute. Mr. Mulumba, unmute.
I have unmuted. Thank you for the questions. Members, assessment, as I've said, we are going deep in the waters. And the question is very good. Where are we going to have an acceptable scoring standard? The acceptable scoring standard, like the one UNEB is using, like the one we are going to use, is called the RACE. It's called the RACE. RACE simply means when we give a task to the learner, we need to know, is the learner relevant? Is the learner accurate? Is the learner coherent? And is the learner excellent in what he's doing? So for instance, Basil here in this table, Basil brought all the things that are related to missionary work that you would expect and gets the maximum score there in relevance of 3. That goes hand in hand with somebody who was asking that we have been told that the maximum score is 3. It is the score of 3 is for a criteria, and the criteria of relevance, the maximum score is 3. And how did we reach it? It is from the history of understanding the behavior of human beings. There is an Italian called Fibonacci. He discovered in 1834 that the way we behave, we are in 3 categories. And so there is category 1, category 2, and category 3. So he said that people can only be in 3 categories. So you have a score 1. Like when he was writing in the 1830s, he wrote that when you go for an interview, at most there are people who can remember things. They can remember 5. Those who are very, very, very good can remember 5 things, not more than that. The second category can remember 3 to 4 of the things required in an interview. And then the last category, they can remember 1 or 2 or their name and the day they are doing the interview. That is the last category. That's how we behave naturally. So he said that when we are rewarding, we should reward to a maximum of 3. And that's where we are coming from to get this maximum score of 3. So learners who bring 5 or more of the things that are connected to the topic get 3. Those who bring 3 to 4 that is related to the topic, they get a score of 2. And those who bring 1 or 2, or they can remember their name, or they can remember the date they are doing the task, those get a score of 1 under relevance. When that is done, we go to another criteria called accuracy. In the second criteria of accuracy, we look for what is correct and right. What is correct and right? So learners who bring 5 or more things that are correct and right, that if it is in a recipe, you tell me that you put there 2 onions, 4 tomatoes, then, and those are the ones that are required to make a soup, a tomato soup, which is good for serving me at a meal. And it is correct and it is right and they are the right proportions. That is accurate. They are accurate in what they are doing. If they bring 5 or more, they get a score of 3. If they bring 3 or 4, they get a score of 2. If they bring 1 or 2 of the ingredients that are required to make a soup, a tomato soup for me, they get a score of 1. Then that one is done. Then coherence. Does it make meaning? Is it logically flowing? Because you can have all the ingredients there, but when I put it near my mouth, the smell from the tomato soup is terrible. So it is not logical. It doesn't make sense to me that I'm drinking a tomato soup because maybe during the preparation, it was burnt. So the smell from it is not coherent. I don't expect a tomato soup to have some burnt smell. So if they do 5 or more of the things that are required to make the soup smell the right way, flow on my tongue in the best way that I feel satisfied, you are coherent. Then, if there are 5 or more, score of 3. If there are 3 to 4, score of 2. If there are 1 or 2, score of 1. And that is the criteria of coherence. Then we go, what is excellence? Somebody was asking, when do we award excellence? Excellence is only awarded to you if you bring something innovative, creative on the task. And we can only score you that 1 score because it's only one mark, 1 score. If you have attained 6 out of 9, there is 3 there under relevance, 3 under accuracy, and 3 under coherence. There, 1 maximum. So if you score 6 out of 9, that is 3 plus 3 plus 3, you have 2/3. Then we look at your outstanding idea. That's why it is very difficult to get. You must have first done the things right here from the beginning. We don't just look at your outstanding idea when in the first stage, you were not going the right way. And in real life, they say garbage in, garbage out. If you start badly, the journey will always go wrong. So you need to start well to be able to get excellence. So in short, the excellence mark, that is how it is considered. And Masanya, I think I've answered you. But somebody is asking, what do we expect on the report card from the chat room? Somebody is asking that. In the report card, we need to tell the parent that Mulumba can write an article which can appear in the local newspaper about missionaries. So that is what competence is about. What can I do after interacting with the teacher in a given topic? Or you say in the performance task, which we had there before, Mulumba can test the soil where a pond is to be constructed. He can find the pH level of the soil. He can determine the drainage of the soil. That's what you should tell the parent, what Mulumba can do in real life. That's what should appear on the report card. And because if you want to put there the scores should be described in words. What can Mulumba do that the score is reflecting? So the scores came out of Mulumba writing an article about missionaries. So if I get 7, say Mulumba scored 7 because he can write an article which can appear in the newspaper. So the score and what you can do must appear. And the score, you are saying that I've given him 8 because he can do this. And the scores where they are, if there are 2 topics, you have to write about the 2 topics. If there are 5 topics, you have to write about each of these 5 topics that Mulumba has done and what he can do in those topics. If Mulumba knows in biology how the transport system in plants works, you say Mulumba scored 6 and can explain why water will continue oozing out of a cut stem. Then you are talking about the transport system in plants. Because he got 6, because he can explain the reason why water continue oozing out of a cut stem. It is clear. Or you say Mulumba got 7 because he can explain why a tree whose bark has been cut start bulging up, swelling at the cut edges. So it becomes clear why the 6 is there or why the 7 is there, because Mulumba can do something which you have put on paper. So that is what will appear on the report. What can you do? And competence, the critical meaning of competence is what can you do? And that's what we want you to report to the parents and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mulumba. Let's take on more questions. Masanyu. Okay, Sam. Okay, Sam. Okay, Sam. Unmute.
Yes, please. Thank you. I realized that from all the presentations and from my encounter with senior ones, the task really requires a lot of time. And my question is, what advice would you give to us who are teaching senior 1 on how we can balance the timing and the instruction? Because sometimes I fail to finish the task I've prepared, but when I know that actually what I have finished or what the students were doing was worth doing.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Mulumba.
I don't know if you can hear me, because I have to buy bundles very soon.
Okay,
One,
we can hear you.
We need a report at the end of the term to report on the topics covered by the learners. We need a report at the end of the year to report on all of the topics covered. But it is better you report timely to the parents about what the learners can do. Somebody is asking, will UNEB use the same format? Yes, UNEB, the discussions have started, and we want to use a criterion referenced assessment, and we have set the criterion. The setters in the month of August, they were doing a draft. The panels of the subjects were doing a draft questions, which are going to be discussed, and we agree, and then we train the setters, the examiners, on what is required. So the draft question papers that we expect UNEB to use are going to be discussed, and we know that relevance is there, accuracy is there, coherence is there, excellence is there. That is the discussion that will go on, and how the question is matched that criteria. So that discussion is going on, but already for the performance tasks, Directorate of Industrial Training has already produced the assessment and training packages for the performance tasks. If you are very good in playing the piano, the ATP, the assessments and training package is already there. You go and demonstrate your skills in playing the piano, and then they give you a certificate in senior 3. If you are good, a comedian, it is there. If you are a poultry farmer in agriculture, it is there. If you're a fish farmer, it is there. If you're a fruit farmer, it is there. A cereal farmer, it is there. An artist, a designer, a tailor, all of these, there are 7 to 8 occupations whose assessment and training packages for performance task assessment are ready. There are 7 to 8 of them. So that one, for performance tasks, the agreement was already made. They have been uploaded on the website of Directorate of Industrial Training. You can download and look at them. So I want to say that the task requires a lot of time. So this is where collaboration is key. Team teaching is key. Use of technology is key. Because what I've done here is use of technology. I've reached very many, 50, 60 people in this session. But if I had to pay the cost of feeding you, the cost of transporting you, it would be very difficult. And I've collaborated from NCDC with HELP and the internet service providers, such that I've achieved because of collaboration, not because I can do it alone. It is about collaboration. And that is the way to go. And that's what we are asking. The schools that have the facilities have to collaborate, have to work with others. At this departmental level, teaching senior 1 alone is not going to be easy for you. You need to work with other members in the group. And that is an uphill task, as you have put it, for all of us, because we have never worked as a team. And we are trying to see how we can work as a team. And that is the way to go. We have to work as a team. We have to collaborate. We have to find how, like I can inform you, we need to teach you how to work with large classes. That is another training which HELP can assist us to have. We need a completely new training on how to handle large classes and on how to do assessment. This is just an overview, but I can take you bit by bit how you will be doing assessment, how you will be scoring bit by bit. That is an ongoing process. There is Musamali Robert, his hand has been up. Let us pick his question.
Robert, unmute. Okay, Robert, okay. Victoria, Robert is coming on. Robert, unmute. If not, type your question in the chat. Victoria?
Yes, thank you very much. My question is about the coverage for senior 1. You may realize that S1 was a projection. I had projected for senior 1. It is even now worse that we have been in lockdown up to today. I don't know whether Mr. Mulumba has any idea whether NCDC has a way it is planning to help us, the teachers and the students, when it comes to coverage. Are they going to condense the coverage? Are they going to ignore what is remaining and we promote them to senior 2? What is the way forward? We are confused as teachers of senior 1. For example, we have 9 topics in English language, and in my school, we were on topic number, or rather chapter number 4 out of the 9. Even when we are to get back, for even if it was 2 months, we may not be able to finish all those chapters. So I don't know whether there is any way forward by NCDC and the Ministry of Education in terms of syllabus coverage. Thank you very much.
So quickly, I want to answer Victoria, and for the benefit of everybody. The principle in competence-based learning is that we assess you on what you have done. We don't assess you on what you have not done. So where you stop is where we shall stop, because you will have submitted to the DOS your assessment of the 4 topics. And that is all. And even in DIT, if it is an occupation of a legume farmer, the one who grows beans, there are 5 modules. These 5 modules, you can do them in senior 2 in its 2 months. But if you do only 1 module, and that is you have established a garden of beans, we can assess you only on establishing the garden of beans, and we give you a modular certificate. That is the principle in competence-based learning, education, and training. It is what have you covered? Where have you stopped is where we assess you. We don't assess you on things which you have not covered. So if there are 9 topics, you didn't cover them, we can ignore them. We shall assess you on what you have been taught. And that is all. We don't assess you on things you have not learned. And even in the end of topic assessment, if you have not taught all the learning outcomes, don't assess those learners. Ensure that each learning outcome you have taught it. And when they are all complete, you tell them, we have done all of these learning outcomes. Next week, I'm bringing the activity of integration. Luckily enough, even this activity of integration, the sample will be in the textbooks. So even the learners can even read it before coming to your assessment, but they will be done individually. But they might have even read it. There is no hiding. When you finish a topic, the 4 topics, did you assess them? That is now the issue with an activity of integration. So if you didn't assess them, that is what you are going to do in the time that you will have. So competence is about what have you done and what can you do. If we did it strictly, it is the learner to tell you that I'm ready to be assessed, not you, the teacher, to decide. But because we are making a transition, we shall continue telling the students that, oh, you will do the end of topic. But that is because we are making a transition. In the future, it will be the learner to say, I'm ready to be assessed, not you, the teacher, to decide. And the principle is that it is multiple entry, multiple exam, multiple exit. So learners can come and say, you told me I'm not ready. When I'm ready, I will come and tell you. And they go and become ready. That is how competence works in its real sense. But as we make the transition, we shall have one, I call it halo effect of covering the syllabus as Bagaya was putting. That is the halo effect of the cognitive-based learning. It is the halo effect, or the medemulok, in other words. So you are bringing it in the competence-based curriculum. In competence, it is what have you done with the learners? Assess me in what they have done. So if you report only on the 4 topics to UNEB, that's where the question is, will be in only those 4 you did. And if the whole country did only 4, that all the exams will be only in those 4 in the week that you covered the syllabus. If by the end of this year, if the scientists tell us when the schools open and you have a time to do some work in senior 1, you will do. And what you will cover, you will report that to UNEB, because each topic the scores must be sent to UNEB. And if the learner stops in senior 1 and comes after 10 years, can start from there, gets the results from UNEB and present them to a new school where he's going and say, in 2021, I was in senior 1 and these were my scores that the school submitted. I want now to start from there. After 10 years, that is the direction of competence-based education. That multiple exit, multiple entry. You allow people as and when they like. So that is the new dimension that is going to come along the way as we start the journey. We are diving into the deep waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mulumba. Let's take on, yes, Teacher Esther.
Thank you, Mr. Mulumba. I have a question on the activity of integration. You say that it is going to be veiled. So does it mean that the teacher is supposed to exactly give the learners that activity of integration, or they can use it as a sample a sample question and then give them their own.
Okay, I want to answer that one, Esther. Thank you for the question. You've said it. A competency is what you can do in society. And the way you do things, you are addressing problems. I want to give you an example that somebody can say, today, this morning, as I woke up, the sun was rising, and by 10, it was very hot. I had to sit under the tree. That is one situation. Then another one can say, by 12 noon, like where I am now, I'm in Uganda, at 12 noon, the sky was covered with a darker cloud, and I had to pick my coat and gumboots as I was walking towards the trading center. You can see the two situations. Which concept are they talking about? It is weather. But in one situation, somebody has used the sun rising and it was hot. In another situation, somebody is saying there was a cloud, a darker cloud in the sky, and I picked a coat and gumboots as I was walking to town. So all of those are part of the concept. And when we are assessing, we can use the first scenario or the second scenario, but the concept is weather. So what will appear in the textbooks is a sample, which demand that you, the teacher, if you want to bring a new one, you should be knowing what the concept is. And then, if you know the concept and its elements, the elements of the concept are 6. The what is an element of the concept. The why is an element of the concept. The how is an element of the concept. The who is an element of the concept. The when is an element of the concept. And the where. All of these are part of the concept. So the problem can appear from any of these 6 W's, but it is still talking about the concept. How you construct each of these makes up the content of the concept. How you construct it, how you build it up. So the activity of integration is as demanding that the learner demonstrate their competence. They are being competent. And to be competent is your ability to mobilize what you know, what skills you have, what values you have to face a society problem among the members of that family. Because the problems can appear in very many different forms, but they are the same problems. And for you, you can look at them from different angles as a teacher. But it's still the same problem. I want to keep it at that. So the teacher has the ability, if he understands the concept. We are not teaching content, we are teaching concepts, the big ideas. What is the big idea? Like today, my big idea was Excel sheet. And that went through up to the end. I was still referring to the Excel sheet. Where is the Excel sheet used? And I did not give you a lot of examples because I was doing assessment. But the concept I was using is the Excel sheet concept. And I could tell you, if you are at school, in a boarding school, do you have things in your suitcase? How do you arrange them? Who puts them there? Who removes? I'm still in the concept of Excel sheet, but I've used your suitcase because you will arrange them either on the longer side of the suitcase or the shorter side of the suitcase. The clothes will be put in one side, the soap and the toothbrush will be put in a different side, the sugar and the etc. If you are using the suitcase to keep them, they will be put in another side. I'm still in Excel. It is the concept. That is the concept. And now, those arrangements are the rows and the columns. And I'm there. And still the database, because Excel takes you to the database. And then we are there. So you need to know what is the concept, the big idea of that is taught to the learners. If you know it, then you can set your own activity of integration. There is a lot of opportunity for that. Esther, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Mulumba. I think we have no more people asking questions. In case you have it, okay. Irana? Irana?
Hello.
Yes, you can go on.
I'm Irana Irene, a teacher for agriculture from Mbale SOS. My question is, in case I wanted to become a DIT, how can I join or become one? Thank you.
Mbale, I hope the new way of learning has interested you. One, how do you become or get into the business of Directorate of Industrial Training? According to the program that I have learned about, is that every school, when the schools open and it is possible to reach you, Directorate of Industrial Training is going to train across the country. And those who will train, some will be selected to become assessors. And the school teacher will qualify to be an assessor because he will be the one presenting the learners. And then 2 other assessors will come from outside when it comes to the performance task assessment. So when the performance task assessment is going to be administered, the teacher will be there as an assessor. Then 2 other people from outside will come to support the teacher. So the teachers of agriculture, when the opportunity comes, I encourage you to join the training. And then you become an assessor, and your school will get a center of assessment. You can use it for the children who are in the school, but also you can invite the community to take advantage, because in the community, there will be people who are either legume farmers, cocoa farmers, vegetable farmers, and they want to be assessed. They can be assessed in a nursery bed establishment alone, that I can establish a nursery bed and the seedlings will be ready and I can sell each one 2,000 shillings each. So that person in the community will be allowed to be assessed at your center and you will be the one leading. Itero wants something. So those details for DIT will be got as we study and interact with the DIT. Let us get from Itero 823. Host, allow Itero to tell us.
Itero, you can unmute. Itero, go on. Okay, George, you can take on as the ITEL is preparing.
Thank you, presenter. Well, mine is just a request whether this presentation is accessible because of internet fluctuations on and off. We've been picking parts and bits of your presentation. Can we access your full presentation? Thank you.
Okay. The presentation is going to be accessed after the session. We shall be sharing the recordings in the different staff rooms, the different platforms of Hope. We shall be sharing the recordings, but still we shall go on and upload it on our YouTube channel for you to be able to access it.
Okay, sir. Anyway, I can see you've shared your website here for accessing it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh.
There is the Jidudu George. Jidudu George, can you tell us?
I think I already made my submission, but I had not just lowered my hand.
Okay.
I delayed to lower my hand, but I already.
Okay, you are welcome. Sabiri, you wanted to say something? Oh, the words have disappeared. Sabiri, can you write on the chat room? Write on the chat room because we are not getting you. Stephen, ask Sabiri to write in the chat room.
Said you are trying to talk, but can you use the chat? Okay, then still when you check the chat, Mr. Mulumba, you can go on.
Let us speak, is it Madam Naliazi?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mulumba. Thank you so much for the talk. It's refreshing. I just want to know, please help me clarify this. You say that when we do the end of session, like the 4 years after senior 4, the students are going to do UNEB. Now, we realize that there are some teachers who are slow. They may not have been able to complete all the syllabus. Yes, you're saying it's competence-based, but will UNEB consider that a student has not covered this at UNEB and give them questions in that area?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Naliazi, for that question. It is a good one. You need reassurance, but the discussion is that in competence-based, there are options according to what you can do. And if I let the cat out of the bag, in agriculture, there are 22 topics from senior 1 to senior 4. So I expect the teachers to submit 22 end of topic assessments to UNEB. So when you do that, we shall use the power of computer to see an average coverage by the country, because there is an app which can do that for us. These are the scores that we have got from all the different schools, because each school must submit all its scores to UNEB. So the app will give us the average coverage for the whole country and identify the topics according to the scores that have been submitted. And say these are the topics that have been done, and assessment will be done in those topics. So in making what we call the blueprint, we make for all the topics the sample paper, but the actual paper will depend on the topics that have been covered. And that's why technology will be very, very handy, that at the end of each topic, we save our scores in Excel and with the DOS. Then the DOS will have timely submissions to UNEB of those scores according to the topics. Then using the apps in a computer, we shall have the assessment made, highlighting the topics that have been covered by each subject, by all of the schools in the country. And that is where the assessment questions will be selected from. That is if it is ideal as I expect it from the planning point of view. That is how the planning is, that we have those apps, we have the softwares that can do that for us. But leaving that alone, everybody, it is the time that you participate in creating a new assessment approach for Uganda. Because the one which you are happy about has been there for the last 100 years. Since 1918, we have been assessing the people the way you are assessing in senior 2, senior 3, senior, up to the university. That has been the assessment approach, and it has not taken us far. I can shout here, but I do very little. And that is not helpful to society. We want people who can do things, and that requires a new assessment approach. People who can do, not only people who can talk, and they use the acronym I met in Makerere, that you read, pass, and forget. That is a useless way of looking at things. New way is that, what can you do? And that's what you want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mulumba. Teacher Reste, your hand is still up. Teacher Reste? Okay, okay. Yes, Irana, you are the last one. Okay, okay. Dear friends, can you join me to give, I don't know, check in your reactions, and at least we give a clap, or we can react. You can give a clap, you can do anything to show our love to teacher Mr. Mulumba for the good presentation he has given us. Thank you so much, Mr. Mulumba. I think you can check and you'll see how people are appreciating on their status. Okay. Yes, dear friends, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Mr. Matthias Mulumba for the wonderful presentation he has delivered. Thank you so, so much, Mr. Mulumba. We have really learned a lot. And allow me, dear friends, to invite Teacher Isaac, who is going to stand in for the head teacher of Mbale SS, to extend his appreciation to Mr. Mulumba and to all the teachers, and also he'll have a word to the teachers. Teacher Isaac from Mbale SS, you can take on the floor.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Administrator. I hope you are all getting me.
Yes, we are getting you.
Yes.
Very good.
We are getting you.
All right. Mr. Buyera Moses, who received an urgent call some 20 minutes ago, left, but he left me with something to communicate. My name is Ainom Isaac, Deputy Head Teacher, acting, specifically in charge of academics. I wanted to very specifically appreciate this program, and because the new curriculum has come to stay, we see a lot of positives in it, although with a lot of questions. So I want to appreciate that, first of all, there has been a positive turn up by the participants. The head teacher particularly wants to also appreciate the facilitator, Mr. Mulumba, for steering us through the 2 hours plus. You know, it's not easy. I am certain you also went through the training, and we are very, very encouraged that you are able to respond to so many questions. That means you have moved some miles ahead of us. You have understood the new curriculum. So special thanks to you, facilitator, Mr. Mulumba, together with your colleagues. Then we also want to thank the administrators. I know there is a lot of planning that goes on before facilitation starts, like the one we have just had. We also want to appreciate the staff, especially of Mbaleses, for turning up in big numbers. I joined in the course of the session. I personally have benefited a lot. I cannot actually get backwards to start rehearsing a number of things. There is a lot I have personally picked. And this training, we had it also, I think last week from Nabmali High, when they were training administrators on this. And just like the teachers are having questions, as administrators, we're also having the same, very many questions. But I think each time we have a session like this, it helps us, it helps enlighten us and make us understand the new curriculum and how to go about with it. So without wasting a lot of time, we're going to continue. I know this is just a beginning. I know tomorrow we still have a program. I'm told tomorrow we will continue with I think another facilitator, Mr. Ronald Dungu. And I'm told it is supposed to be from 11 a.m. to 1. However, teachers are encouraged, the staff are encouraged. I know being a Sunday, some may go for prayers or may attend prayers on Zoom. You're encouraged probably after your session for your Sunday service, you can tune in, you can log in and come earlier because the administrators will be around who can start some trial presentation with you. And you can also have opportunity to ask more other questions you have not been able to ask right now in this first session. With all that much, I want to appreciate everybody and the partners who have made this training a possibility. May God bless all of you. I appreciate all of you. On behalf of Ms. Javiera Moses, a teacher, Mbale says, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Teacher Isaac. I want to thank all the teachers that have turned up. Like Mr. Mulumba said, that it is still a learning process and we are diving deep into the waters. We are going to continue, the whole platform is going to continue offering this service. We shall continue having trainings about the new curriculum in the next month. In the next month, just check on our platforms. We shall be letting you know because Mr. Mulumba has offered to give us more trainings. Like he has told you, we shall have a training on how we shall handle those big classes. We shall have another training on how we can do the scoring and other more things. So please keep checking on our website and on our different platforms. We shall be letting you know on which activity we shall be having. Mr. Mulumba, do you have any last word for the teachers?
My last and final word is that this is a learning journey and all along journeys beginning with one step. Let us keep seeing how the new lower secondary curriculum can be implemented in our schools with what we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mulumba, and thank you so much for the presentation. I want to thank all the teachers, all the administrators from the different parts of the country that have joined us. Please, thank you so much. Allow me to call upon Sister. Sister Mary, are you on the call to lead us in a closing prayer?
It's Mr. Kaziva.
Okay.
Let's humble ourselves to our prayer in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Almighty God, here we are before you. Lord, we are grateful for this day. We are grateful, and we are grateful for all that we've been able to do today. And we thank you, Lord, for everyone who is here of this program. We continue to present you all those people who are well wishers of this team, of this platform. And then, Lord, we ask you that you bless us. You bless the effort of everyone who is here. You bless all those who are willing to join us. And then guide us in all that we are planning to do for the good of the country, for the good of our students, and for the good of our profession. We pray that you bless everyone. You bless our evening. And then as we go for our weekend, please, we ask you, Lord, to refresh our minds and then to grant us the wisdom to implement all that Mr. Mulumba has taught us for our good and for your greater glory. We've prayed through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen. So thank you so much, members. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sister, and bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend.